All right, welcome to another episode of the Success Agent Podcast. And this is the show where we have broker owners, team leaders, business owners, real estate professionals, and the gurus that you are not aware of that you will be after today. And today we have Chris Gavry, and he is an investor, land developer, really has a big focus on affordable housing and just trying to do the best we can for those of us that can't always just go out there and just buy a house off the street. And Chris is here to give us all those little nuggets on how you can find your more affordable housing, or if you want to jump into this space, he can also help you out there too. So Chris, welcome. Thanks for
Thank you
coming.
for having me, JP.
Yeah, of course. So tell me how you got this journey. I know we talked a little bit about the show started that you kind of were doing power washing, and then, I mean, how do you go from like, I mean, I know like five power washers right now that aren't in real estate. So how do you get from power washing into the real estate space, man?
Yeah, so my story is a little bit messy. I was going to school in Kennesaw University. It's a little outside of Atlanta, maybe 30 minutes. This was back in 2016. I was a freshman there. Long story short, 2017, I got mixed up with the wrong crowd, was on drugs, got arrested. And so I'm originally from Atlanta, but my mom had relocated about 10 years before this to Greenville, South Carolina. She had gotten remarried. So after I got out of jail and went to court and all that, she relocated me up to Greenville, South Carolina. So beginning of 2018, I'm sorry, October 2018, I was in Greenville. I just moved up there, dropped out of college, lived in my mom's basement, and I listened to this podcast. It's called the Sweaty Startup Podcast. I don't know if you've ever heard of it.
No.
Okay, well, it's just what it sounds like. It's this guy that he's a big proponent for service-based companies. He's like, go start something that is easy to get into, but your competition sucks. They don't know how to do marketing, whatever. And so I decided on pressure washing. Never pressure washed before, but I rented one from Home Depot, washed my mom's house. I was like, wow, a monkey could do this is what I'm gonna do. Beginning of 2019, I was pressure washing. Met this guy that was a realtor, and he flipped houses and stuff on the side, had some rental properties, and did retail side of the business. And I started washing his flips or listings that he had or whatever. And at the time, I was 20 years old, I think. And he was like, "Man, what's your goal? What are you trying to do here? You're a young guy." And like most people, my first entrepreneurial goal was I want to make 100 grand a year. And he's like, man, that's a lot of houses to wash. Like, you're going to be a tired boy. You should think about getting into real estate. And so it was July of 2020. I went to the school to get my license. Fast forward, I got my license in very beginning of November of 2020. And I was still pressure washing during all this. But the first deal I ever did, it was my mom's neighbor. He had this old double wide mobile home he wanted to sell. And he didn't want me to list it because he didn't want to pay 6%. But he's like, if you find me a buyer, I'll pay you 3%. He wanted like 55 grand for this thing. I was like, okay, sure. So I put it in this Facebook group, real estate investor Facebook group. This lady comes along, buys it. She was also a realtor, and so she switched to my brokerage, which was Keller Williams. And so about a month after that transaction, I saw her in the office. I was like, "Hey, what'd you ever do with that mobile home?" And she's like, "Oh, I wholesaled it." Like, you wholesale? What do you mean? Well, long story short, she made 20 grand on the deal, and I made like 900 bucks after I paid the brokerage their cut. I was like, man, I'm in the wrong business. And she was like, yeah, you should think about getting into wholesaling. So about 3 months after I got my license, February 2021, I started wholesaling with her. So I was cold calling, looking for deals. Her and I did a couple transactions together, and then we ended up going in separate directions. But yeah, she kind of opened the door for me to get into wholesaling, and then I just kind of took it and ran with it from there, and was wholesaling deals. And then would kind of pick some up and go find some hard money or something to flip a house occasionally, and then hard money to refinance and do a rental, and just kind of fumbled through it for years, and was doing that. And then in 2022. The licensing board in South Carolina changed their laws around wholesaling, basically saying realtors can't wholesale properties. I got this whole like cease and desist notice because I was posting deals on the Facebook groups, and some RoboCop reported me. But so I got like the cease and desist order. I stopped wholesaling, and that only applied to single family homes. And so at that time, I had already bought like one mobile home park, like a tiny one, like 9 lots. And I was like, you know what? Maybe I'll do mobile home park deals. Maybe I'll wholesale those. And so I wholesaled a couple of them. And this guy, Robert, that I was wholesaling them to, he was like, man, we bought a park together. I was going to wholesale it to him. My assignment fee was 70K. He's like, man, I don't want to pay that. How about, just give it to me at cost and I'll give you 30% equity in the park. I said, sure. This was November-ish of 2022. And then about a month or so after we bought that park, we had some empty lots in the park and we wanted to fill them up. And he had what's called a manufactured home dealer's license, which basically allows you to go directly to the manufacturing plant, get brand new houses at wholesale prices. And so he was telling me what he could get a brand new single wide for to fill our lots. And I was like, man, what can you get a double wide for? And he was like, I don't know, like 55, 60 grand. And I was like, man, that's super cheap. Why don't we just go buy land, develop it, put these brand new houses on it, make it FHA compliant, sell it on the market? It's like doing a spec build, but for mobile homes. And so, we both thought it was a great idea. And then February 2023, we closed on 5 lots that started this whole land home process, and I've been in it ever since. That's all we do now.
Yeah. Yeah, that's awesome. So you kind of glazed over the origin story here a little bit because you're like, oh, I just got in the wrong crowd and just went to prison, and then oh, and then I'm in real estate. Like, so we got to unpack that a little bit because I'm sure because okay, so I have a similar story with one of my buddies. He had a little something happen, and then he ended up doing county jail for like 3 months and to find out before his court date, and then ended up going to court, and then basically everything was fine. He just had to pay a fine, and then basically he's back at it. Of course, he didn't get those 3 months back, but during that time, he was like digging into AI and how to market and doing all this stuff because he didn't tell me that is like, dude, it's like basically going to a hotel but you don't get to leave. And he's like, they give them iPads and they get to watch TV and they get to do all this stuff. And you're like, oh, you can spend 4 or 5 hours on these iPads and learning how to do all this stuff. So he just was like, so all I was just doing was just in my head the whole time, but otherwise he was just like, and then I'm just waiting for my court date. And then I was like, oh, okay, well, I still don't want to go to prison, but if you had to, you can just say that it's not like what is that? What was that movie Oz? It's not anything too crazy like that. But that'll scare you from not ever wanting to go there. But anyways, I mean, I had some close calls when I was younger. I just was able to just glaze through. Like I was in the military, almost went to jail because of an incident, some stealing from a local department store. And even though I didn't do it, he was like, "Yeah, but you were the guy watching out for the security, so you're an accessory." Blah blah. Anyways, they almost kicked me out of the military. Almost got like a court-martialed out of the system, and then I was just able to like they just demoted me, and then I was able to get back home without having to go. But yeah, so tell me about that part of it and how like that just kind of like changed everything for you from a trajectory perspective. Because I think there's a lot of people that have probably either been there or like how do you have like these eye-opening moments and things like that? Because at the time you probably were just like it just is what it is, like F the police kind of thing.
No, that it was actually really difficult. So I mean, like most people, middle of high school, I was smoking weed and whatever, having fun.
Yeah,
And then as I got into college, they kind of progressed because then it's like a blue ocean of drugs, right? I mean, there's pretty
yeah,
much everything there. And
yeah,
so I had rushed to fraternity and was just partying all the time. And I got into slightly harder party drugs that I
yeah,
probably shouldn't have. And so after I got out of jail, I was only in jail for like 2 or 3 days, and then got bailed out and then went to court a year later.
sure,
But what was the most difficult part about it was, I was 20 years old sitting in my mom's basement watching all my fraternity brothers have their parties and fun. And I was like, man, I dropped out of college, like trying to kind of put my life together and get my head screwed on straight, to stay out of trouble because I'd gotten 5 years of probation or something. And so it's like, I don't want to get in trouble again because then it probably would be jail time. And of course I didn't want that. So I think it was more of like for a couple months when I got to Greenville, so October of 2018, for the first 2, 3 months, I was kind of just like floating along, trying to kind of figure out what I want to do. And it's like, do I go back to college? Do I get a job, So I just kind of went on the internet and started exploring things, and somehow I found that podcast. I don't even know how. Yeah, I think it was more of like I just had energy and nothing to do. I mean,
Yeah.
I had never lived in Greenville. I didn't have any friends there. I didn't know anyone, and I couldn't just go to Atlanta. And for context, Atlanta's probably 2.5, 3 hours away. But on probation, I'm not allowed to leave the state without permission. So I couldn't leave South Carolina just whenever I wanted. So I was never really able to go visit anyone. And all my fraternity brothers that are in college partying aren't wanting to come up to Greenville to sit in my mom's basement with me and hang out. So
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, so I had nothing but time, and I was bored and jealous of all my friends having fun. So I was like, you know what? I might as well try to figure out how to be successful in some way. And it just kind of evolved. I mean, I'm sure you get into business thinking you're doing one thing, and then 5 years later, it's completely different than what you ever imagined, and you don't really
Yeah.
know how you got there. It just kind of unfolded. You just knock on the doors, and eventually some of them open.
Yeah, yeah. And it's the journey that makes it more exciting too. It's like, oh, and especially when you start getting just a little bit of success and you're just like, oh man, I'm so close. I'm so close to being like, I think I made it. And then when you think you made it, you're like, nah, I haven't made it, and it's like, and it's, they say there's this like a saying that says it's lonely at the top. And the more you climb, the more you're like, ooh, there's more, even more successful people here. And then you're like, oh, and then the more you climb, you're like, oh, now I got to start searching for these people to really help me get me to the next level. And it's just exciting to see like these stories of where you just like, I don't know, it just kind of happened. I'm like, yeah, but they always say luck is what is it? Opportunity plus or circumstance plus effort equals luck, and
Yeah.
it's just like you just got to create more of that, and so it's really interesting to see how when you finally find that one thing you're super excited about, how it just all kind of comes together and you're like, this was the thing I was meant to do, and I find that in real estate too. I had a pretty interesting upbringing. I did retail. I had 30 jobs before I was 30. So
Wow.
yeah, I always had one or two jobs at the same time. And then I joined the military and then I had three jobs because I was part-time military plus two part-time, plus a full-time and a part-time job. My wife went to
Wow.
school for 10 years to try to achieve like this academic goal of greatness. And my side of it was hustle, hustle, hustle. Because my dad was military till he was 26, got out, or 26 years in Air Force, got out, didn't know what to do and had a different job every 3 years. And my mom was a nurse for almost 50 years when she finally passed away. But it was one of those deals where it was just like I saw these were my mentors, right? Grind, 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 or just kind of fumble through life and just kind of like, oh, I don't really know what I'm doing. And, everything is just, it is what it is, and I didn't want to have that. So I knew sales had to be the thing, but I didn't know what that was. So I was always bouncing around from retail to retail till I was, found this place where it was like, oh, it's base plus commission. That'll do it. Well, then you realize you're bound to 40 hours a week still and there's only so much crap you can sell in a week, to really bump up your wages. And I was like, oh, and I started doing the math and I started figuring out how my hourly wages was, and I was like, this is impossible. I'll never reach six figures. And because that was the goal, everyone says, oh, you got to reach six figures, and then you reach six
Yeah.
figures, and you're like, that ain't enough money, bro. Like
Right.
you're
Yep.
that's broke because now you got 7 figures worth of debt, and so but yeah, so tell me about the transitioning into land. And I saw on one of your socials that it's starting to become harder and harder to find land that's affordable. So tell me a little bit about that and how you guys are trying to circumvent that issue. And then obviously, I'm sure tariffs aren't helping your business either. And the cost of doing a lot of these other things are starting to go up. So how are you guys navigating a lot of those kinds of things right now?
Yeah. So the as far as the land part of it, that can be a little difficult, and depending on where you are. So the main issue with that is when you're doing mobile homes, you're kind of capped at what you can sell them at. So in our market, we're typically selling the finished product for about 230,000. What we've noticed is that when you get to 250, 275, you can go buy a stick built house almost at that price. Now, it may not be an immaculate house or anything, But people are sitting there and like, well, why would I pay 250 for a new mobile home when I could just buy, an old mill house or something? I'd rather have a stick built house anyways. All that being said, it makes it more difficult on the land acquisition for us compared to a spec builder because our exit's not 350 grand, it's 230. So we're having to pay less than what a typical builder can pay. Therefore, it can make it a little bit difficult to find lots to do this on. We've been pretty successful in doing that still. I think last year we did 50 or 60 of these projects. And right now, I think we have 20 or so going at this time. So we're still able to find land. It's not impossible. I've just noticed that, I think the pricing for us can't be too high for the land. On top of that, though, I think there's more people getting into this space than ever before. Before we were on the show, and the listeners don't know this, but you were telling me how you've done land home before, which kind of blew me away because in 2023, I thought that I came up with this strategy. I thought I was actually a wizard. I was like, I did not know a single person doing it. No one on the internet was talking about it. And I was like, man, like this is awesome. But now you see a lot of people talk, or at least a lot more than there was. And I don't know if it's just what RAS, reticular activating system, where I know mobile homes. And
Yeah,
now
yeah,
I'm
yeah.
looking at it, I noticed everyone else that's talking about it now. Maybe it's some of that. But it feels like there's a lot more people talking about it. Therefore, it's getting a little bit more competitive. It's really not that competitive, but more so than it was 3 years ago. And then as far as tariffs go, we've seen that impact a little bit on the price of the houses. I think the manufacturer has gone up maybe 5 grand or so since we started 3 years ago. Hasn't been a massive impact, but it hasn't helped. That's for sure. I don't remember what your first question was in that. Uh,
Oh, just kind of how you were how you were navigating the climate with finding the land and then, making sure that, basically the build packages are working for your numbers and stuff like that. So that's kind of what I was going after. But you kind of answered most of that. So
okay, yeah.
so in terms of, are you guys going after, probably, are you doing any like development in terms of like subdividing big lots into, or are you like writing your own covenants? Are you trying to get to where, like, going after the bigger guys that have, like, 20, 30 acres that you can subdivide and make them into more manufactured uh friendly land, or just the
Yeah, so
little
we're not
one-offs?
we're not touching the big 20 or 30 acres. We've looked at doing that before. The issue that you run into with that is the cost of infrastructure, doing interior roads and all that comes with doing a subdivision. Just blows the numbers out of the water for us.
Yeah.
Because again, our ARV, so to speak, is a lot less than that of building a regular house. But what we will do is we'll go get 5 acres, that's road frontage, and chop it up and make 7 lots out of it, or whatever. So to answer your question, combination, we'll do up to 5 acres usually. When we get past that, we usually don't touch it. Main reason for that being, uh, depending on where you are in the country or which county you're in, after you reach X amount of lots in a subdivision, it becomes considered a major subdivision, which has a whole slew of requirements and hoops to jump through and takes forever. So we want to stay under a minor subdivision every time we do it. And so that therefore we don't do big lots for that reason, but we only do them with road frontage. We'll do the one-off lot, the little half-acre lot somewhere, or we'll go up to typically 5 acres and make 7 lots out of it or something like that.
Nice. Do you guys have a particular manufacturer that you like versus others, or is it just whoever's got the best deal? I mean, when you're trying to find are you getting, because I know a lot of them, they're always throwing out crazy, like, come get this lot, this place, it comes, oh, you see all this furniture right here? It comes with it, like all this kind of stuff.
Yeah, so we mainly use Cavco, Cavco. We've used Clayton and Champion Homes, and they're fine. It's just Cavco for a while there, their lead time was like 1 to 2 weeks.
Oh
So
yeah.
if you ordered a house, it was on site in 2 weeks. Like, wow. And at that time, Clayton was like 8 weeks out. So we could just do these projects absurdly fast using Cavco. Now I think they're about 4 weeks out, so still relatively quickly. But we just got so ingratiated with them that's pretty much all we use.
And so let's transition a little bit into the like, I'm always curious the money management piece of these things because when you've got 50 deals going, I mean that's quite the money management aspect. So are you guys doing private money? Are you getting investors? Do you have institutional money? Do you have like a combo? Like how are you guys kind of funding these deals?
Yeah, I'll tell you, there's some days where I was like, man, I wish I still just was pressure washing. It was a much easier life.
No doubt it's like 1 to 1. Oh,
Yeah.
payment. Thank you so much. On to the next one.
Yeah,
Which is a scalable business if you do it right, right?
it
You get four or
is.
five guys, you pay them, 15, $17 an hour and you're charging 50% profit and you have, 1,000 places to pressure wash. I mean, that's not bad money, man.
It wasn't. And I was arguably happier then because it was a lot less stressful. But to answer your question, really a combination. So we start with private money, of course. That's always the best option.
Yeah.
And then we use hard money lenders to supplement the other deals where our private money lenders are just out of money. When we first started, there wasn't any hard money lenders really that were funny because no one was talking about them. And so they didn't even know what the hell I was saying. I was like, yeah, we're going to do a land home package. Like, what does that mean?
Yeah.
So we kind of had to educate our hard money lenders, and we had flipped a lot of houses. I kind of left that part out, but we had flipped a lot of houses for a while. And so the hard money lenders that we were using for that, they were kind of local. They weren't like this big national company. And so when we first started doing land home, we were like, hey, would you be willing to kind of take a chance on this? And they're like, yeah, we've done a lot of transactions with you, sure. So private money is first stop, and then supplementing the rest with hard money lenders. And now there's several, I think 3 or 4 that I know of at least that are national hard money lenders that fund land home projects. So it's becoming a lot easier to get financing for this than it was previously.
Yeah. Are you still seeing like 10.99 plus 2 points or
I
11,
wish.
11 and 2? No, more than that?
Yeah, it's usually like 3 and 12, or another one's like 3.5 points and 14. And now that you say that, I didn't realize I haven't flipped a house in like 2 years. I guess the rates have gotten a lot
Yeah,
cheaper
I
for
mean,
flips.
we just did one. It was like 10 point. No, it was 9.99 and 2 points. I mean, that was all.
Wow,
Yeah. So, and then I've done a couple. We're part of a investment community, and we've got a few that'll do 100%. Yeah,
that's nice.
it's
Yeah,
pretty
they're
sweet.
usually like 90%. The hard money lenders that do the land homes for us are usually about 90%. But no, they're a lot steeper. And I think it's maybe because it's there's less competition for land home loans, at least at this time.
Yeah.
Maybe that's subject to change. But I mean, there's so many hard money lenders for fix and flips. They
Yeah,
have
for
to be
fix and flips,
competitive.
dude, there's one on every street corner. I think I
Yeah,
saw a
they're
homeless
begging you to
guy
take
with
their
a
money.
with an interest rate on his cardboard. Yeah, no, it's a good space. I mean, we've been doing this for, like I said, for a long time. But I do like the infill lots. If I can, it's the challenge is like a lot of times you got to go driving for dollars, to find those infill lots that are just sitting there. And then, half the time they're like, my grandma's never going to sell that. She loves
Yeah,
that place.
yeah.
She's going to die there. And some are like, oh, you're the first person that's ever actually reached out to me. And I'm like, how is that even possible? This place
Yeah.
has been there since this is a 1970s subdivision. What is happening right
Yeah.
now?
And I got
And they're
this thing
like,
on
I'll take
prop
25
stream.
grand. And I'm like, you're done right now. Yeah, it was crazy. I did one where it had water and sewer on it already, and then come to find out it needed the sewer needed to be redone. But even still, I think we made like 80,000 on that deal. It was pretty wild.
That's
And
awesome.
and then he said, "Oh, my brother's trying to get rid of his lot, and it was right across the street." And he's like, "I'll take 25K," and I'm like, "Done." So we just bought it, and we're like, "I'll figure it out later." Like I don't even care, you know. And it was during COVID, so I ended up throwing it on the market and I sold it for 45,000 and made, a quick 25 on it. So I was like, sweet. And yeah, so it is just one of those things where it's like you got to grab the thing and then you just got to go real deep with it and just become an expert in that area. My problem is that it's just I like solving problems and I really don't want to be an expert in everything because it's like I might jump over money because I'm like, well, it's out of my comfort zone. And then I won't do it because I don't feel like I want to do it. But it's like, dude, it's just solving a problem. And there's like these basic mechanics that come with building a business that you can apply to everything. And I'm not going to go in and, start a medical sales company or anything like that. But I'm going to stay, I'd rather go wide in what I'm doing rather than deep because then I can always change lanes when I need to. It's like if I have a garage full of different cars, like I'm gonna drive this car if we're doing this thing, and I'm gonna drive that when I want to go fast. I'm gonna drive that when I'm taking the kids, but it's all the kind of relative to what I know. And so for
That's interesting
me,
because I'm the complete opposite.
yeah, because the thing about it is like when people come to you as the expert, then the moment you're like, they're like, you're done. You're dead to me. Even though they're, and so I would rather be helpful than hopeful, you know. And for me, I would rather just sit there and be like, okay, what do I know and how can I apply that to this scenario? And then eventually you become a real estate expert in all things real estate, because you've done enough reps to where you kind of understand like, this is easy stuff. And a lot of times it's funny because I was just talking to a couple investors the other day and they're like, yeah, I'm getting all these leads coming in and I don't, they suck. And I was like, well, tell me about them. Well, this person came in, they didn't have any equity. And I said, no, I don't do that stuff. And I was like, well, did you ask them what their interest rate was? No. Did you ask them what their payment was? No. And I'm like, dude, that was a creative finance deal you just walked away from for 400, you make 400 bucks a month and they were willing to just give you the property. Like, we get these all the time, believe it or not. People are just willing to give their properties away because they just don't want a foreclosure on their record all the time.
Heard.
And so it's like if I have 10 of those, that's 4 grand a month I don't have to work for. I don't have to
Yep.
go pressure wash a house, 14 times to make 4 grand, you know what I'm saying? And so it's one of those things where it's like, Grant Cardone says this all the time, and he says that money is like energy. You just got to figure out how to pull it out, you just got to extract it, and to me, it's just like just need the right plug-in to plug in, and then I can just get all the energy I want. And so it's really fun space. So what's next for you, man? Are you just gonna keep doing this, or what are you? Looks like you're trying to build a coaching company too.
Yeah, so I think just doing this, at least for the time being. I mean, right now, a lot of my friends in the flipping space and spec home building space, a lot of them are getting kind of burned right now, just because things are sitting on the market. It's a lot harder to sell, and there's a lot more inventory than there was, at least in our market.
Yeah,
Um,
we're seeing that
where we
too.
don't really, yeah, really have that issue though, because we don't really have any competition at our price point. And so with everything that's happening right now, we feel really good about this space. I mean, on average, we're under contract within the first week of listing these. Whereas, I mean, I've got friends that have been sitting on a house for a year.
Yeah,
So we really like this space. And like I was just saying, contrary to you, I go all in on kind of one thing, almost to a fault sometimes. But everything mobile home related, so I do the land home packages, and then we go buy mobile home parks or the little dinky single wide on a half acre. I buy that and just seller finance it. Really, anything mobile home related is pretty much all that we're doing right now. We did start a coaching program. I don't know if you know Brent Bowers with Land Sharks.
I've heard that name before. Yeah,
Okay. Well, we met him at a conference a couple years ago, and we were telling him about land home packages, and he does land. So he was teaching people basically how to find land, and he'll flip it or wholesale it or seller finance it. And he said, man, you guys need to teach this because no one's talking about it. And that's a really cool strategy. And so he like really nudged us to go do it. And so me and my partner, Robert and Brent, all started a coaching program together where we basically just hold people's hands through these land home projects because there's not many resources for it. When Robert and I first started this, I mean, we thankfully had mobile home experience because of the mobile home parks we had, but we had never developed land before. I mean, we had no idea what we were doing.
yeah.
And there just wasn't really any resources or YouTube videos or podcasts telling us how do I actually do a land home package. We're basically just teaching people that entire process.
Nice. I guess my last question for somebody that's wanting to get started in this and they're like, hey, what can I do to just, get my feet wet? What kind of information would you kind of give them, or would you just tell them to reach out and book a free call?
In terms of getting their feet wet in land homes,
Land.
yeah, well, a couple things. One is finding land. That's the foundation of all this. If you don't have a piece of land, you don't. I mean, you can't even say land home without land. So that's step number one is just finding a lot. And the main thing with that is you're going to have to be outside city limits 98% of the time, depending on where you are in the country. They're not going to allow a mobile home in city limits, or if they do, it comes with a lot of hoops you got to jump through, and it's a pain in the ass. So that's step number one. You're going to probably find it out in the county somewhere. It's okay if it needs septic. 95% of the lots we do are on septic. It's perfectly okay. Uh, we try to always find public water. We don't really like to do wells Depending on where you are in the country, though, a well might be the only option. Like,
Yeah.
for example, we got some guys in Arizona doing them, and it's like there's no public water there. So that's completely okay if it needs a well, but just take into account that it's going to be pretty expensive to do that. Next step is of course the due diligence process. I mean, I'll just break down the whole thing if you
Yeah, yeah,
want.
yeah.
You got time for
Do
that?
it.
Okay. So if I'm under contract on a piece of land, first thing, assuming it's a septic, we're going to do a soil test. I want to know that a septic tank can go there. So we'll test for a 3 or 4 bedroom septic. That usually takes about 30 to 45 days, at least in our market. That'll vary too. We do a third party soil scientist. You can use DHEC, but it'll probably take 3 times as long, but it'll be a lot cheaper. So we're doing a third party soil scientist for that. Next thing we're going to do is confirm zoning. We're reaching out to the zoning department. We'll do all this, by the way, before the soil test is back. We want to figure everything else out while we wait. But we'll reach out to the zoning department. Hey, can a mobile home go here? We want them to send us a letter on letterhead saying, yes, you can do a manufactured home here. We're also going to confirm water availability, like I just talked about. So we're going to see if it has public water access. If it does, we're going to call that municipality and ask how much is a water tap cost there and a meter, because those can get pretty pricey too, depending on where you are. And then we'll go ahead and start getting all of our quotes while we're under contract. So you'll need a grading quote. You're going to have to clear the lot if it's not already cleared, grade it out, scrape it for a mobile home pad. We want to see how much it'll cost to install a septic tank, assuming that it passes that soil test. And when the manufacturer delivers the house, they're just going to drop it on site. They're not going to install it for you. So we have to get a mobile home installer to actually block and tie it down and put it in position. And then in our market, we're doing the brick foundation for FHA financing. It doesn't have to be brick. You can do concrete board, or you can do the vinyl skirting. However, it has to have solid surface backing. So we found that brick looks the nicest, and it's not that much more expensive. So we go that route usually. So we'll get a brick mason to quote that. It'll come with the ductwork and the furnace inside the house, but you'll need the outdoor AC unit. So we'll get an HVAC guy to quote that. You're going to do decks on the house. It doesn't come with decks. You'll need to build them. And we'll typically just do like a 4x4 on the front, maybe a larger deck on the back. That's also up to you, preference. We'll do a gravel driveway typically. Make sure you also check all deed restrictions and covenants. Make sure there's nothing blocking you, because sometimes zoning will allow mobile home, but there might be some other covenant or something preventing you from doing that. Make sure your title company confirms that. We've gotten sued over that before. But also confirm with them that there's no restrictions on driveways. For example, it might be in a manufactured home subdivision, but they require you to do a paved driveway instead of gravel, which is so much more expensive. And you'll also have to get an electrician to do the sub meter and the meter base for the pole to connect power to it. You'll get a plumber to run that water line from the meter or well to the house. Same with the septic guy. He's going to install the tank, then connect it to the house. You'll have to do a trim out on the inside of the house. So when the house delivers, it comes with all the materials for the trim inside the house, but it's not installed because it comes in 2 halves since it's a double wide.
Yeah.
So it comes with materials, but you have to have someone go in there and actually do the trim out and put that up. I think that's it. Anyway, so yeah, we quote all that stuff beforehand. When we close on a piece of land, we buy a piece of land today. As I mentioned earlier, at this time, the home will typically deliver in about 30 days, sometimes less, sometimes a little bit more. Once that house is on site, we're usually set up and on the market within about 30 to 45 days. So it's really, really fast once the home is on site. But most of the time, you're waiting for the house to get there. Before
Gotcha.
the house is there, though, we're going to, of course, clear and prepare the land for it. And, of course, get all of our permits in order. But that's all we do before the house arrives. If you're doing footers, by the way, you can do ABS pad footers. Those are FHA compliant. They're really cheap. Usually an installer will do those. If not, I would recommend you call your installers to ask if they'll do ABS pads and how much. If not, you'll need a footers guy to do concrete footers. So depending on where you are in the country, some may require concrete footers. Some are okay with ABS pads. If you do concrete footers, you'll want to have those poured before the house delivers as well.
Gotcha. So you're not doing any kind of like 4 foot crawl spaces or anything like that on yours?
No, nothing too fancy, just the
Yeah.
bare minimum.
Yeah, the one was a we did it on like a little crawl space. I think it was a 4 foot, maybe it was 3 foot. It might have been 3 or 4 foot because we put all the mechanicals underneath so we could get more room in the manufactured.
Yeah, we just do whatever the manufacturer says. I don't remember how tall it is. It's definitely not 4 feet though. We didn't do all that. If you're on like the side of a slope, you might also have to do that. Because we've had that happen too, where it's kind of a sloped lot, and in the back, maybe it's, maybe it is 4 feet, but up front, it's like 2 feet.
Yeah, right on. Nice. And then kind of just like because you guys are all licensed too, right? So you list and sell your own stuff too, right?
No, actually, we don't. We do have our license, but we don't actually use it. The main reason for that is we just have a good broker that we trust, and the South Carolina market that we work in, and he's really helpful. I mean, I'll say, I'm sure you know this. No offense, I feel like 98% of realtors suck, but the 2% that are good are really good,
Yeah.
and they make a big difference. And so, having someone that knows what they're doing is really beneficial. Whenever we get a piece of land under contract, the first thing we're doing also is sending it to him and saying, "Hey, how much can we sell a new double wide for here?" He's pretty much spot on almost every time. And so
Nice.
we really value having that input from him because he just has been in this business a lot longer than we have.
Sure.
Um, so no, we don't list our own project. And it's funny because Robert and I probably once a year sit there and like, dude, we pay this guy like 300 grand a year and all these commissions. Should we just list these ourselves? But it's like, whatever. He's worth it. So no, we don't. That does remind me though, the mobile home dealer's license, like I mentioned earlier, that is kind of a necessity in this. So basically, with that license, you're able to go directly to that manufacturing plant and buy the house.
Yeah.
Without that license, you can't do that. And so when people drive down the road and they see that Clayton lot on the side of the road that has a sign and the mobile home sitting out front, that's not actually Clayton. That's just someone with a dealer's license like myself that's selling their product.
Ah,
So you don't want to buy the house from them because they'll charge you $30,000-$40,000 more than you can
yeah.
get it with a dealer's license. So that's a state by state license. Some states are extremely easy. Some are a pain in the ass. South Carolina is really difficult to get a license in, but yeah, so that's also a necessity for this because it'll save you about 30 grand on that home purchase.
Yeah. Yeah. We are the one we picked up was one that they couldn't sell. It was just one that was sitting on the market, and they're like, "Why does this not gonna sell?" It's because someone's got to buy it and move it somewhere, and that's why they sometimes they just sit. And he's like, "And the new ones are coming in, so we got to get it off the lot." So I went in there, and the guy was like, "It was crazy because it was like 100 grand. It was a double wide. It was like 2,300 square feet. It was like a 4 bedroom, two bath, and I was like, and it came staged." So I got all the staged furniture with it too. So I was like, dude, that's
Nice.
amazing. Because there's probably like 3 grand worth of staging stuff in the house.
Oh, yeah.
And so I was like, sweet. And then we gave him my $1,000 deposit, and it sat on his lot for 4 months because I wasn't ready. And so I was getting free storage for it too. He was not happy with me at all. And and he's like, dude, when you gonna come get this? We need the space. And I'm like, bro, I'm getting to you, man. And so I was like, I gotta get my space ready. And he's like, so he called me once a month, and he's like, is it ready? And I'm like, no. And he's like, man, you really got to get this off here. And I'm like, dude, you're already paid. And then I paid for it, and then it sat. And then he really wasn't happy with me because then I was getting free storage for my trailer for before I could move it. And then I finally got the spot ready, and then we got it all sat down, and I sold it in like a week. Like it was pretty nuts, man. I hear what you're saying though. Like people, you know, they're a little bit like, oh, trailer, and then when they walk in, they're like, it's just like a friggin' house. It's like a regular
Yep.
house, because it's not your grandma's trailer house like it was back in the day. And got a guy that is with the brokerage that I'm with. He's out in Texas, and he's buying these Titan. It's Titan Homes, I think it's called, but they do these crazy like islands and shaker cabinets with soft clothes, and he's just, I mean, they're cheap, cheap. It's just wild. Like you can get so much more house nowadays in one of those. I mean, if I wasn't doing what I was doing and I had my pride in the way, I'd probably just go buy myself a nice little 4 bed, 3 bath, and just stick it on 10 acres somewhere and live like the king, because they're like, oh, this is really nice. And I'm like, yeah, you didn't know I paid less than 200 grand for this, did you?
Right.
But that's awesome, man. So if somebody wants to reach out to you and get just they're ready to rock and roll, man, and they want to learn more about how to start doing this, how do they get a hold of you?
Yeah, so as I mentioned, we partner with Brent at the Land Sharks. So if someone wanted to like book a call and talk about the coaching part of it, they could go to thelandsharks.com. Make sure you put the in there, otherwise you'll be on that beer, the Land Sharks beer.
Oh
Um,
yeah. The as in THEE or THE like the land sharks.
THE, the
Oh,
land
okay.
sharks.
Yeah, okay. This is a
That's funny.
holier than thou website, and we're gonna teach you about the way of doing everything.
Or someone's more than welcome to reach out to me directly. You can find me. I usually just use Facebook. I'm not on all the other social media. Chris Gavry, last name is spelled Gavre as in Victor, RE. I'm the only redhead Chris Gavry you'll find on Facebook. So send me a friend request. I'm happy to talk to someone too.
Sweet man. Well, I appreciate the time today. This was a load of information. It's probably a lot for someone to unpack on their own, and they can reach out to you and get some more help. So appreciate you being here today. And that's going to wrap up another episode of the Success Agent Podcast. Peace.